Welcome to China Elite Politics, a podcast about Chinese Communist Party elite politics and operations, US-China relations, and China-related geopolitics. I'm Larry Ong, Senior Analyst at Sino Insider. This is episode 7 of the podcast. In this episode, I'll go over recent developments in Xi Jinping's campaign to cleanse Communist China's political and legal affairs apparatus. I'll also explain how Xi's campaign is linked with factional struggle in the Chinese Communist Party elite and how the campaign could escalate in coming months. Alright, let's begin. First, a brief explainer to those who are not entirely familiar with what the political and legal affairs apparatus is. The political and legal affairs system is responsible for domestic security, law enforcement, and legal matters in the People's Republic of China, and comprises public security bureaus, state security departments, the courts, procuratorates, and prisons. Chinese dissidents and people concerned with human rights are acquainted with the political and legal affairs apparatus through its stability maintenance operations like surveillance, repression, brainwashing, torture, and other Ministry of Love type business, to take a term from Orwell. Today, the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission oversees and directs the apparatus and its operations. This wasn't always the case. Before the Jiang Zemin era, the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission was a coordinating agency with little real power. Jiang, however, gradually reformed and strengthened the commission until it became one of the most powerful organizations in the PRC. But powerful apparatuses are not immune to the party's scrutiny. Between April 14 to April 27, at least 20 political and legal affairs officials were investigated by the authorities for, quote, serious violations of discipline and the law. 8 of the officials were retired and 6 were approaching retirement. On April 17, Ma Lina, the director of the Beijing Municipal Procuratorate Political Department, fell to her death from her residence. The authorities said she suffered from depression and ruled out criminal causes. But Ma's death coincided with the Central Political and Legal Affairs Education and Rectification First Supervision Team being deployed to the Beijing municipal government's political and legal affairs apparatus on April 1st. Since March, supervision teams have been sent out across China to carry out the education and rectification of provincial political and legal affairs departments, work units, and officials. Guo Shenkun, the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission Secretary and head of the new National Political and Legal Affairs Education and Rectification Leading Group, laid out what the, quote, Education and Rectification campaign means during a national level meeting on February 27. Guo said that education and rectification work is not only an urgent and important task, but also requires inward determination and courage. Political and legal affairs officials are to, quote, thoroughly make use of the revolutionary spirit to focus on deep-seated problems exposed by the eradication of evil, turn the knife blade inward, and scrape poison from bone. Self-rectification is warranted because the political and legal affairs apparatus, which is known as the party's knife handle, or Dao Bazi, is an, quote, important force in defending the party's leadership and the people's democratic dictatorship. Officials must be true to the Communist Party because political loyalty is, quote, directly connected to the party's ruling position and the country's long-term stability. Therefore, it is necessary for officials to, quote, learn deeply from the serious violations of discipline and the law by some political and legal affairs leading cadres, especially serious violations involving political discipline and political laws. To, quote, completely eliminate hidden political dangers, the Education and Rectification campaign will, quote, thoroughly cleanse the political and legal affairs apparatus of, quote, cliques and factions, including, quote, two-faced factions and two-faced people. From Guo Shenkun's meeting remarks, we get the sense that the ongoing education and rectification of the political and legal affairs apparatus concerns political risk and regime security. We also learn that there are 2 groups of two-faced officials who represent hidden political dangers in the apparatus. At one level, the Political and Legal Affairs Education and Rectification campaign is undoubtedly an extension of Xi Jinping's now 9-year-long anti-corruption effort. However, given that the bulk of PRC officials are engaged in some form of corruption, Stamping out malfeasance is unlikely the sole or main reason behind Beijing's targeting of political and legal affairs officials at this time. A study of Chinese Communist Party elite politics will show that intra-party struggle between the Xi Jinping camp and the Jiang Zemin faction is a key factor behind the education and rectification campaign. First, Xi has been wrestling control over the political and legal affairs apparatus from the Jiang faction since taking office in 2012. The faction prized the political and legal affairs apparatus because it is the main driving force behind Jiang Zemin's anti-Falun Gong campaign. Jiang and his faction thus saw to it that most of the officials in leading political and legal affairs positions were either members or associates of the faction. For example, all secretaries of the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission from Luo Gan in 1998 to Guo Shengkun today are Jiang faction members. Meanwhile, many less prominent political and legal affairs officials who rose up the ranks during the Jiang faction's era of dominance from 1997 to 2012 are also loyal to the Jiang faction given the nature of patron-client relationships. The composition of the political and legal affairs apparatus meant that Xi couldn't count on it when he became General Secretary. After all, Xi had a front-row view of how his predecessor Hu Jintao and former Premier Wen Jiabao had been unable to accomplish much of their agenda given the split loyalties in key governing organs. Hu and Wen's orders were frequently carried out improperly, if at all. Hence, Xi embarked on a long and grinding effort to bring the political and legal affairs apparatus under his sway. In his first term, Xi took out top tigers like former Central Political and Legal Affairs boss Zhou Yongkang, as well as active and retired provincial security bosses aligned with the Jiang faction. Early in his second term, Xi launched a sweeping black anti-triad campaign that also targeted middle to lower-ranking political and legal affairs officials who served as, quote, protective umbrellas for mobsters. The ongoing nationwide education and rectification campaign is a continuation of Xi's long-standing effort to eliminate outstanding factional networks and consolidate his control over the political and legal affairs apparatus. Controlling the political and legal affairs apparatus and ensuring the loyalty of its officials are paramount for Xi Jinping ahead of the 20th Party Congress in 2022. That is because Xi will be pushing for a norm-breaking third term in office and will run into opposition from party elites. The Jiang faction in particular knows that they are finished with another 5 years of Xi and will seize any opportunities they can to undermine Beijing. Thus, Xi is strengthening his control over the apparatus responsible for domestic security to enhance stability maintenance and deny his factional rivals openings to exploit in the lead up to the 20th Party Congress. Things could get ugly fast between now and late 2022. PRC officials looking to demonstrate their loyalty to Xi Jinping and earn political capital could unwittingly implicate a wide swath of serving and retired political and legal affairs officials in executing the education and rectification campaign. For one, PRC propaganda outlets have called attention to 20-year retroactive investigations in Inner Mongolia and the 5 provinces where the education and rectification campaign was piloted. Guo Shengkun also noted during the National Political and Legal Affairs Education and Rectification Work Mobilization and Deployment meeting in February that the Supreme People's Court and Supreme People's Procuratorate had been promoting lifelong accountability from political and legal affairs officials, including retroactive investigations. The instinct of PRC officials is to prefer left rather than right, to stay politically correct, safeguard career security, and secure career progression. This instinct could result in a wave of 20-year retroactive investigations across the country in the coming months if officials believe that it is safer to throw in their lot with President-for-life Xi Jinping instead of the Jiang faction. And the 2-decade span of retroactive investigations means that Jiang faction associates and supporters are bound to make up the bulk of political and legal affairs officials who stand to be implicated. In the dog-eat-dog world of the Chinese Communist Party officialdom, political patrons who used to serve as political umbrellas to younger officials could find themselves at the mercy of their political clients. Proliferation of retroactive purges represent an existential danger for the Jiang faction and could convince the Jiang faction to move sooner rather than later against Xi Jinping. Foreign businesses, investors, and governments need to be aware of heightened political risks in China this year and the next, especially around sensitive periods and celebrations for the communist regime. In summary, we gave an overview of what the political and legal affairs apparatus is and covered recent developments in an ongoing campaign to educate and rectify the officials in said apparatus. We also explored what the education and rectification campaign means for Chinese Communist Party elite politics. Finally, we give an example of how 20-year retroactive investigations into political and legal affairs officials could threaten the Jiang faction and lead to showdown in the Xi-Jiang factional struggle. That's it for today. If you found the information and analysis useful, please feel free to share it with others. See you in the next episode.